Hey, St. Pat's. It's great to be with you again with this week's video newsletter. And I'm continuing my teaching on generosity. But before I get into that, I want to mention a couple things. Had our first night of VBS last night. Had a great time. This is Tuesday, August 1st. So we have a gathering tonight, gathering tomorrow night. And it's been a great time. And for those who come, I hope they've been blessed and encouraged. The kids seem like they're having a great time. So keep praying for that God will use that to disciple our kids. Just want to encourage you to already be thinking about our ministry training day on August 19. It's a Saturday morning. You've been hearing details on Sunday. You're going to hear more details about that. But we're going to do the best we can, Andy and I and other team leaders, to make sure it's the best ministry training day we've ever had, that it's going to really encourage you and equip you and strengthen you and help us just grow and kind of raise the temperature on our commitment to serving one another, serving the Lord, and doing it all with excellence. So just be praying about that. It's going to be a great time. And you might not know this, but on Sunday, August 27th, you probably know it because it's been listed, we're having an all-church picnic. We're gonna start talking about it in a week or two, but there are a lot of things happening. It's going to be really fun. I've heard rumors that we're going to have a bouncy house for the kids, so I think we're going to have a great fall picnic this year, so you want to make sure it's in your calendar. It's going to be in the evening that Sunday, so we'll do church in the morning and then come out for the picnic, have a great time of fun and fellowship, and as always, lots of good food. So anyway, keep those things in mind, and you'll hear more at church, and there'll be details in the newsletter. But let me talk about generosity. You know, I sort of began with just the truth that God is a generous God. We're called to radical generosity. Did some teaching on the tithe. I want to shift gears now and talk about managing or stewarding our resources. And I'm not Dave Ramsey. I'm not an expert in Crown Ministry. I'm not a money manager. So what I'm going to give you is sort of a couple of rules of thumb that I've learned that are really helpful, that are biblical and sound. But if you really want to dig deep into, like, you know, how to budget, etc., I'd encourage you to check out Dave Ramsey, check out Crown Ministry. Check out Ron Blue. Those are some online resources from a Christian perspective that can help you think about money and money management. But I learned a couple things a long time ago. Here's a basic rule I learned about budget. Great starting point. Came from a man named Philip Shedd. He wrote a book kind of for people who are getting ready to get married, and he had this rule for budgeting. He said, look, give 10%. Take the first tenth, your tithe, and give it to the Lord through your local church. Tithe. Second, save 10%. Just from the top, take 10% of your income, figure what that is, and just commit that you're going to save that. Then live on the other 80%. And what you do is you treat the other 80 as that's your money, and the first 20 doesn't even belong to you. And what that does for you is, A, you get faithful in giving, B, you get faithful in saving, and then you discipline yourself to live within that 80%. And for most of us, there are obviously exceptions to this, especially for people that are struggling. You know, maybe they're without a job or kind of in deep straits financially. But in general, we tend to spend what we have, and so if we put boundaries around what we allow ourselves to have, we will tend to figure out how to live within that. And over time, we can adjust to that based on how we manage our budget. Now, there are a lot of great tools on how to actually then figure out where to put your money and what should go here in terms of bills, in terms of mortgage, yada, 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 yada. I'm not going to talk about that because I'm not the person to talk about that. I'm not going to help you very much with that. I'm like you. I've had to learn from other people. But the main thing is pay God first, pay yourself first, that's your savings, then pay everyone else. If you can build that into your life, that is a great posture for stewarding what God's given you, and it will train you to live in generosity. Another thing that can really help you live in generosity is to get aggressive about getting out of debt. Now, some of us have a lot of debt, some of us have little debt, some of us have no debt, and we're all at different places in terms of the income we have available to work on it. But all of us can get aggressive about getting rid of debt. And in many cases, it has more to do with our willingness to sacrifice for a season to get out of debt than it is our inability to get out of the debt. Again, I understand there are exceptions to that. So if you don't fit in that, don't feel condemned or guilted by that. But for a lot of us, we want to live a certain kind of lifestyle. And so we just kind of live with our debt and just sort of service it rather than get rid of it. But here's what debt does. Number one, debt makes you a slave to your lender. Now, I do believe that a mortgage on a house is a little bit different than most debt. Obviously, you can have what happened, in 2008, have a major downturn and lose your holdings in real estate. But for most of us, A, it makes money, and B, it's secured. So if you can't pay the bill to the bank, they'll just take the house. So the debt is actually matched by the house. That makes sense. It's secured debt. It's a little bit different. But almost every kind of debt is actually unsecured, and you're just liable for it. Until it's paid off, that lender basically owns you. The borrower is the lender's slave, it says in Proverbs. And so that binds us or it limits our freedom in terms of having what we do with our resources. Then think of all that money we do go to pay off debt. And oftentimes, especially credit card debt and stuff, it's something we didn't really have to have. Not always, but sometimes it is, and we just bought it, shouldn't have, and so we're paying it back. And if we're holding the debt, we're paying interest, so money's going down the drain. So I know a lot of us, that's been a battle for Trudy and I. We've struggled at times with debt. We got out of a lot of major debt, and at a stage in our life, but it's still a struggle, and I'm trying not to live with that. But to do what you can to not live with debt, to figure out how can I save money for that next car, and maybe just buy a used car of Craigslist rather than the new car, so I'm not paying someone for my car. Things like that, the more we can begin to move into that, that's really liberating. So those are my two lessons really about stewardship in our culture. I think if one, we can learn how to give 10, save 10, and live on 80, and then begin to make a plan to aggressively get out of debt, that's going to position us to live more and more into generosity and be faithful in that area. So just some rules of thumb I've learned. I hope they're helpful for you, and I hope you have a great week. See you Sunday. Bye.